today I want to discuss briefly, real quick, getting your MOEs. You know, how to get your MOEs. Not how to get your MOEs. You know, just a helpful guide, I guess, on the basics of getting your marks of excellence. I myself personally, I don't have any tier 10s marked, and you know, I think the highest I have is tier 8. Tier 9, I'm kind of like, I think I have 2 or 3. Like at around 90% Leopard PTA, I think, E50, and but I have a whole bunch, you know, the tier 5, 6, 7s, and you know, not a whole bunch, but quite a few, and I do it on a regular basis. I don't have any plans on getting tier 10s because I think you've got to be a little bit bananas to get your third mark of excellence on your tier 10. And you basically have to play non-stop, and I don't actually play non-stop. I do play on a regular basis, on a daily basis, but, you know, not for that long, because I have horrible teenage sons that kind of take over the Xbox. He's looking at me right now. And, yeah, you know, it's much simpler, much easier, much more fun to grind out your marks of excellence on the mid-tiers to, you know, up to tier 8, etc, etc. Tier 10, I mean, I haven't even attempted. I haven't even tried. And from what I read on the forums, it's like hundreds and hundreds of games. Whereas tier 5, 6, 7, 8, and, etc, it's just, you know, it's a couple of hundred at the most, you know, depending on how you play and all of that jazz. So, yeah, so it's a pretty cool feature. It's a pretty neat feature to have on your tank. You know, it means that you're special. It means that you're super duper, you're uber fantastic, and you're better than everybody else. And everybody wants to be better than everybody else. Everybody wants to be special. You know, I like being special. I'm so special. And I mean, you know, basically choose first choose the type of tank that you want a free mark in. You know, choose the type of tank that you're best in. Is it a TD? Is it a medium? Is it a heavy? And then, you know, just start with your most OP tank in that category and just take it from there. Artillery, I have the tier 9 M33, M55, or M53, 55, I haven't got a call. The tier 9 USA artillery. I do have quite a number of games played in that thing, and that's because I was trying to free mark the thing, and I found that it's just impossible. You know, kudos to anybody out there that actually has artillery free marked, you know, especially, for instance, you know, the tier 9 USA, because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't budge it. I couldn't move it past 85%. You know, I think it was 85%. It just would not budge, and I finally gave up after, you know, 100 or so games where it just wouldn't move. It just wouldn't budge, and that's due to the fact that, you know, artillery is very, very inconsistent. You know, you do okay, you do pretty okay, and then every 10th, 20th game you get a fantastic game, you know, and that's about it. So, you know, so artillery, you know, stay away from that if you want to, if you're thinking about free marking, in my personal opinion. So, but choose the type of tank that you're that you have, you know, most played in, whether it be mediums, heavies, or TDs, and just choose the most OP tank that you have in that category and go for it. You know, try and free mark it. You know, try and, if it's your first time free marking, go for it in that tank. And it's not that difficult, it's not that hard, it's all about being consistent. And I wouldn't say it's all about being consistent, it's all about not having crap games, because the thing that affects your MOEs, your mark of excellence, first of all, it's the way you achieve your MOEs by getting damage, whether it be actual damage, you know, shells fired from your gun, or assisted damage, you know, from tracking vehicles, from spotting vehicles, and they get damaged by your compadres. So it's a combination of those two things. You know, it's the damage at the result screen at the end of the game, and the figure below. You know, so it's two different figures that come into play when it comes to your MOEs. That's why it's kind of really important to have a fantastic game, for instance, on OP maps for certain types of tanks. You know, Prokhorovka comes to mind. When you're on Prokhorovka and you're in a light tank or a medium tank, you know, you have a really decent game in that on Prokhorovka in your light or medium, and it's going to significantly boost your MOE 100%. Quite a handful of times I've reached my third mark of excellence on Prokhorovka. I think with the Comet, I think with the T67, for instance, I remember. So, you know, so those two factors basically come into play. And, you know, it's like I said, a lot of people say it's about being reliable, you know, keeping your average going, but, I mean, the main thing is not to have those zero games, you know, those games where you don't, inflict any kind of damage, you know, where you kind of just make a foolish error, a foolish mistake, and you end up bottom of the team. I mean, you cannot have those type of games, you know. You need to be consistent, first of all, and you need to not have any crappy games. Those are the two main factors, you know, that come into play. And you get your first mark of excellence at 65%, then your second one at 85%, and then your third one at 95%. And I mean, truth be told, when you grind out a tank, you know, moving up to the next tier, you should be able to get your first mark of excellence, you know, sometimes even a second, you know, depending how well you play. But and going, so hitting 65%, it just means you're better than 65% of the players, or you're as good as the top 35%, you know. So it's not that big a deal to get your first mark of excellence. The biggest grind, in my personal opinion, is going from 65 to 85, you know, to the second mark, you know, because that's the kind of, that's 20% you need to move up, you know. That's a big chunk. And I mean, it's not difficult, it's the most time consuming, in my personal opinion. But going from 85 to 95, that's when you really need to knuckle down and really understand that it's all about being consistent. You need to check your average damage on the what's info, you know, where you check your WN8, check your average damage in that tank, and basically always aim for, work out how much damage you're inflicting on average, you know, how many shells do you need to better that average damage that you currently hold in that tank. You know, if it's 1,000 and your shells pump out 250 damage, well then, you know, know how many pens you need to make, you know, in order to increase that average damage, basically. And just always aim to be better, you know, than what your average damage is in that tank. And if you do, and keep in mind, it's not just average damage, it's average and assisted. And if you do achieve that, you know, in each and every game, you're better than your average damage. It'll slowly creep up. Don't ever aim to... a lot of people make the mistake and try to go for epic, fantastic, spectacular games, pardon me, and in order to give it a big boost, you know, in order to give it that 1% boost or that 1.5% boost. It's a great thing when you achieve this, absolutely, 100%, you know. But the thing is, a lot of times when you try and go for these big, massive games, you will take unnecessary risks, and which sometimes will pay off, but sometimes will hurt you big time. You know, you'll end up you end in the game with 0 damage, and that's going to hurt you big time. You know, dropping 1% or 1.5%, it's, you know, to move it back up to where you were, it's going to take you a whole bunch of games. So aim to be consistent. Understand the strengths and the weaknesses of your tanks, of your tank. Understand that you need to understand your tank. You need to go and watch as many vids as possible, and just understand what makes that tank tick. It's no good just sitting in the back and sniping and sniping and sniping. That'll increase your you know, your MOE in minuscule amounts, you know, minuscule amounts. It'll just take you twice as long, you get bored of the game, etc, etc. You need to put your tank to good use. If it's a medium, you need to be flanking, sniping, if you've got a sniping gun, etc, etc. But you need to be smart about using your tank and not take unnecessary risks. When you recognise that it's the mopping up stage, I mean, go for it, 100%, go for it. But still, you can't take too many unnecessary risks. Just figure out how to use your tank. When you hit that 85% mark, all you need is 10% to get that third mark, you know, and that's it. It's just 10%. What I basically do, I aim, I split it up into 5% chunks, you know, so when I hit 65, I aim for 70, you know, when I hit 70, I aim for 75, and so on and so forth. So when I get my second mark of excellence, and I hit 85%, I simply aim for 90, you know, so 95 doesn't look that far away, you know. If you're splitting it up into just 5% chunks, getting to, you know, the next 5%, it's not that big a deal. It's not that hard, is what I'm saying. So when I hit my get my second mark, I aim for, and I'm on 85%, I aim for 90, and then when I hit 90, I aim for 95. And but like I said, it's all about being consistent. And one other thing which is really, really important is to understand when you're having a bad game. You know, when you're having a bad game, and you're being cautious, you're being careful, you're trying to read the map, read the situation, and you can't make any plays because maybe your team is not doing that great, and you haven't inflicted barely any damage, and you know this is going to bring your MOE down. Then you need to make a judgment call when to pounce and get some damage in real quick before you lose the game, before you die. You know, sometimes the game is, you know, the battles are unwinnable. You know, they're just 100% unwinnable. You know, like I was in a Comet once, and it was a tier 9 battle, and what am I supposed to do? You know, it's just myself and a couple of other tanks left. Yes, I've got a fantastic sniping gun, but, you know, I needed to get in that, you know, 1k, 1.5k damage just to keep my MOE, you know, sustain that MOE, and not finish the game with 0 damage. So, you know, I knew that the game was coming to a close, drawing to a close. I knew there was only a minute or two to go, so I kind of picked and chose my moment precisely, where I knew I could quickly get in there, get some damage, and then die, you know, and defeat. You know, there's nothing I could do. I was bottom tier. What can you do? There's absolutely nothing that could have been done. But I managed to maintain, you know, my MOE didn't drop, you know. So this wasn't a game where I was sitting in the back, etc., etc. I was, you know, understand, especially when you understand something about when you are bottom tier. When you are bottom tier, just wolf pack, you know, go with the crowd. If they lemming train down one side, you just have to go with them. You know, you have no choice. You're bottom tier. What are you gonna do? You're gonna take on a flank that is, you know, completely unprotected. Yeah, you know, you go with the pack, you lemming train with them, but you hang back and you shoot in between the shots of the res. You know, you need to learn the reloads. Well, this is basic World of Tanks knowledge. You need to know the reloads of the enemy tanks, but and just shoot in between those shots. You know, shoot in between those shots. If your compadres are between yourself and the reds, chances are they're going to be shooting at them and not at you. So you can take advantage of that and, you know, pop a few shots off, etc., etc. But like I said, it's all about consistency. It's all about not having crap games. Yes, once in a blue moon, you do have those fantastic games where, you know, it kind of pushes you up somewhat, but just be careful when you're, you know, you need to make a good judgment call when you can go for these fantastic games. When you're top tier, you're top tier, you know, and it's a whole bunch of lights and the crappy slow heavies, and you know what your medium can, you know, outrun all of the tanks on the opposing team. I mean, go for it, 100%. But calculated risks, you know, calculated risks, 100%. So, but anyhow, I said a lot, but I didn't say nothing really. Remember to walk away. Remember to walk away. If you're having a bad day, you know, at the office, if you're having a bad batch of games, just give up. Just walk away, because it kind of steamrolls you. You know, when your MOE starts to drop, before you know it, it's dropped by 2, 3, 4, 5%. You know, and it's because you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're not playing at your best. You know, and before you know it, you've done more harm than good. And don't try and push through, if you know what I mean. Don't try and, I need to push past these bad batch of games. It's what's happening there for the most probably is you're your own worst enemy. You're making a lot of bad judgment calls because you're frustrated, because you're angry, and you're not thinking clearly. And just, you know, not walk away from the game. Just roll out your E25 or some OP machine, and just remember you're playing the game to have fun. And yeah, so anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed. Take it easy. Bloody boring. Take it easy. Adios, muchachos.